Hi, this is Jack from Maths Forge, and in today's lesson we're going to be solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula is a way to solve quadratic equations that are equal to 0. And the quadratic formula is x is equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. Now we can see that the x here is represented by the x in the quadratic equations. However, what is the a, b, and c? So you should know that all quadratic equations can be written in the form of ax squared, so a is the coefficient of x squared, plus bx, so b is the coefficient of x, and finally plus c, where c is the constant, the number without any x next to it. And so if we actually find a, b, and c in our example question, the number in front of x squared, or the coefficient of x squared, there's no number there, so by default it's actually 1. So we can say that a is equal to 1. And for b, we have a 2 in front of the x, but you have to be careful and you must include the symbol to the left of the term. So this isn't actually just a 2, this is a negative 2. So b is equal to negative 2. And finally, c is equal to negative 1. As you can see, I've included the symbol to the left of the term. And that's it for assigning the values for a, b, and c. If you input these values into the quadratic formula correctly, you should get your answers for x. So let's see what that looks like. Here I have x is equal to minus b. So I'm going to put a minus, and where there's a b, I'm going to replace it with brackets and the substituted value for b, which is negative 2. So x is equal to minus b plus or minus, and I'll show you how to work with this plus or minus in a bit, the square root of b squared, so I'm going to replace the b with a minus 2 in brackets, and the squared on the outside, minus 4 times a is 1 in this case, so I'm just going to put a bracket with a 1, times c. And c is negative 1, so I'm just going to put a bracket with a negative 1. And this is all being divided by 2a, or 2 times a. And in this case, a is 1. So I'm going to replace the a with a bracket and the 1. And the reason I replace a, b, and c with brackets and the numbers that they are equal to is because later on, when we write this down into a calculator, if you write it down like this, there is a lower chance of you making a mistake when inputting the numbers in. And most calculators should be able to understand this perfectly. So what do we do from here? Well, we simplify. So we have x is equal to minus a negative 2, which gives us a positive 2. And then it's plus or minus the square root of negative 2 squared is negative 2 times negative 2, which gives us 4. And then we're going to have minus 4 times 1, which is negative 4, times negative 1 is positive 4. And this is all over 2 times 1, which is just 2. And then we can go ahead and simplify this further to give us x is equal to 2 plus or minus the square root of 8, all divided by 2. Now at this stage, you can break this up into 2 separate equations, one with a plus and one with a minus. And that's the purpose of this plus or minus right here. It's to account for the 2 solutions that can exist for this equation. So how this works is as follows. I'm going to write x is equal to 2 plus the square root of 8, all divided by 2. So that's one solution. And the other solution is exactly the same, but instead of a plus, we're going to put a minus. 2 minus the square root of 8, all divided by 2. Now we can input these values into our calculators and get the 2 solutions. So the question is asking us to write our answer to 2 decimal places. So for x is equal to 2 plus root 8 over 2 to 2 decimal places, the answer is 2.41. And for x is equal to 2 minus root 8 over 2, the answer to 2 decimal places is minus 0.41. And if we check our answer, there it is. And this is how you solve quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. Locate your a, b, and c, input them into the formula, simplify, and solve, and you should have your answers. Now let's do a 2-star example. The first thing we're going to do is locate our a, b, and c. A is equal to 5, b is equal to negative 8, and c is equal to negative 3. Now we're going to input this into our quadratic formula. So it's going to be x is equal to minus b. So it's going to be minus and then brackets negative 8. So we're replacing the b plus or minus the square root of b squared. So it's minus 8 squared minus 4 times a, which is 5, times c, which is negative 3. And this is all being divided by 2a, or 2 multiplied by a. So we have the following, and if we simplify, we'll get a negative on a negative gives us a positive, so it's going to be positive 8 plus or minus the square root of negative 8 squared is 64. And then negative 4 times 5 is negative 20, and negative 20 times negative 3 is positive 60. And this is all being divided by 2 times 5, which is 10. So now we can go ahead and simplify this further once more. This is going to give us x is equal to 8 plus or minus the square root of 64 plus 60, which is 124, all divided by 10. At this stage, we can separate the equation into 2 equations, one with a plus and one with a minus, and it's going to look like this. X is equal to 8 plus the square root of 124 over 10, and x is equal to 8 minus the square root of 124 over 10. And if we input these values into a calculator, so 8 plus root 124 all over 10, we should get x is equal to 1.91 to 2 decimal places. Don't forget that the question's asking us to give our answer to 2 decimal places. And for 8 minus root 124 over 10, we should get x is equal to minus 0.31. And if we check our answer, there it is. Now we're going to do a 3-star example. Here we have x squared minus 5x, which is equal to 6. Now remember, the quadratic formula only works in solving quadratic equations when they are equal to 0. So this quadratic equation here is currently equal to 6. We're going to fix this by subtracting 6 from both sides, because 6 minus 6 will leave us with 0 on the right. And don't forget to do it to the other side as well. This is now going to leave us with x squared minus 5x minus 6, which is now equal to 0. And at this stage here, we can find our values for a, b, and c. A is equal to 1, b is equal to negative 5, and c is equal to negative 6. Inputting these values into the quadratic formula, we end up with x is equal to minus b, which is brackets negative 5, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so it's minus 5 squared, minus 4 times a times c. And this is all being divided by 2a, which is just 2 times 1 in this case. Simplifying this further gives us the following. X is equal to minus of a negative is a positive 5 plus or minus the square root of negative 5 squared, which is 25. Minus 4 times 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 6 is positive 24. And this is all being divided by 2. So now we can simplify this once more to give us x is equal to 5 plus or minus the square root of 49, all divided by 2. And now we can break this up into 2 separate equations. X is equal to 5 plus root 49 over 2. And x is equal to 5 minus root 49 over 2. Now you'll notice something here. The square root of 49 actually simplifies to give us 7. So for this equation here, we don't even need a calculator. We can just do 5 plus root 49, which is 7. So 5 plus 7 is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. And then we have, for this one here, 5 minus 7, which is negative 2, divided by 2 gives us negative 1. Now, you have to be very careful here. The question has asked us to write our answers to 2 decimal places. And I know what you're thinking. There aren't any decimal places. These are whole values. What we can do to still answer the question to 2 decimal places is to simply write down 0.00. Now, I know this is a bit pedantic, but 0.00 is technically giving the answer to 2 decimal places. And if we check our answer, there it is. And that's it for the lesson on solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. I'd strongly urge you to remember the quadratic formula, as it's going to be easier and less hassle for you to answer these questions.